Okay, so the first thing we're gonna have to do is start by removing this old airbox, which is pretty easy. There's gonna be a grommet here, 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 and then also this clamp right here, which you can get with a flathead. And we also need to unplug the mass airflow sensor. All right, so I'm gonna start off by removing the mass airflow sensor, also moving this line out of the way. So what I'm gonna do is just take these two screws out here, they're T20s, and just remove those now, just because I find that this plug for the sensor is kind of hard to remove. So now that those T20s are out, can pull up on the sensor and remove it like that. And now I'm just gonna put it back here and store it to the side. Okay, now that that's done, I'm going to come down here and remove, well, not completely remove, but just loosen this clamp here, just enough so that you can move it around, and then you can slowly start wiggling your airbox out. Like that, and now your airbox is out. So one really important thing is that your grommets stay here. So this one happened to stay, this one stayed, but this one came off. So what you're gonna do is just come over here to the stock intake, just take that off and put it back on. Now that that is done, we can remove this pipe here from the turbo inlet to the intake. So there's going to be another clamp here, and then down here, might be hard to show it, but this clamp right here, there's going to be a little hook on the back, and you're going to have to grab that hook and then try to separate the clamp out like that, and then that should come off from the cable. I'm gonna start out by getting this one down here. This one was on a little bit tighter than that top one. Hopefully this is picking up on camera. I'm just gonna get that decently loose. And then now I'm going to grab the bottom one. All right, so let's see if I can get down here and show you guys what's happening. But so you're gonna go here and then kind of just push it out like that. Just bring this cable around and this should come out now. Just wiggle it a little bit down here and now it's out. And on the topic of this pipe here, you can actually just cut, like with a Dremel, and just go around all of this. And then inside you can see that baffle. If you cut that baffle out and then you use some sort of silicone to like bring this pipe back together, you can actually get pretty much the same effect as putting the intake in sound-wise. So if you don't want to spend the money on an intake, you can do that as well. All right, so now we can grab this pipe and slide it into the turbo inlet. Just push it in pretty much as far as it can go. And let me see if I can get this on video. Just go on that wide angle. So you're gonna want this pipe, this portion going straight up, because this is what's gonna go to the intake box itself. So I'm just gonna push this in. You might need to loosen up that clamp a little bit more just so you can get it all the way in. And then now I'm gonna go in here and tighten this. You're gonna wanna make sure that you get this tight now, because once you put the airbox in, you're not gonna have access to this. So make sure that it's tight. That's not going anywhere. And now we're gonna grab the lower portion of the airbox. Okay, so actually I lied. You're gonna wanna grab this silicone adapter. Let me loosen up this clamp a little bit. And you're going to want to put this onto this pipe here and then tighten it. So I'm just gonna make sure it's even. And now we're gonna go in and tighten this. And after this is tightened, then we can proceed with the airbox. So in the box, you're gonna see that it comes with this kind of gasket, and you're gonna wanna put this in here, like slide this portion in through this edge, but the one that is supplied is a little bit longer than what you need. So I find if you just kind of put it in like this and then just make a little mark on where you need to cut it, you just do that, and then we'll install that. Okay, now I've trimmed it down, and I'm going to go ahead and install it onto here. So you can see, you kind of just put it on sideways and then try to slide it in. It's kind of tricky, but it's not terrible. Seems I may have actually cut a little bit too much of it off, but it's really not that big of a deal. It's mostly just so the pipe doesn't rattle around and hit this and make a lot of noise inside. The next thing we need to do is with this grommet over here, we're gonna push this piece in and then grab this and just thread that into here. It actually seems like it's gonna be easier if I take this out. Okay, now that it's threaded in there, we're gonna push that in, and then included, gonna get washers. You can put a washer on top of that. Okay, now what we're gonna do, excuse the storm in the background, it's Florida, but we're going to drop the airbox in. And I feel like the easiest way to do this is kind of just stick your hand in here and then pull that tube out. And just make sure that you line up all of these grommets and push onto them. Just gonna make sure this pipe is seated in here well. Stick my hand in through this corner over here. Make sure all that is in there good, which it is. So now I'm gonna take this other clamp and just slide it onto there for now as a placeholder. Going to grab this portion and slip it in there like that. You might need to put your hand on the other side just to support it. And just slide that in there good. Logo to the top facing the front. And one thing I realized here, you're gonna wanna remove this little bit of stripping and then grab your mass airflow sensor, and you're gonna want to put the cable in through there and then install it into the new intake. Okay, and in the bag you will see these small Phillips screws, these here. These are the ones that you're gonna use to secure your mass airflow sensor. So put those in, screw them down tight. And now that those are in, we can get on to the next step of securing the airbox to the car. Now at the front of the car, you're going to see these two holes here, which line up with the ones on the car, and you're going to want to grab this plastic piece and this little push tab, push that in there, and then you can push that other one in. And I will repeat the same for the other side. And I dropped that, it could have been bad. Pull it a little bit so it lines up, and then push this other tab in. Like that. And now we will move on to the next part. Okay, the next thing we're gonna wanna do, grab this washer, the second washer that's included with one of these nuts. just go in there and tighten it. The nut is a 10 millimeter. Keep going until that is tight. And one thing to be very careful of, which I've started to notice with this, is a lot of these things are really sharp, so you're not going to want to hurt yourself, so just be careful. Like, this edge is pretty sharp, this edge is pretty sharp here too, so just be careful while you're doing this. One thing I just realized that you guys need to be careful of is this intake duct here was like kind of pushed over towards this side, so it wasn't actually lining up. So when you're putting the box in, make sure that this duct is in here, so that way you can get that nice fresh air from the front going into your filter. And speaking of filter, now's the time to grab your filter. Just make sure that the clamp is loose, and you're just gonna want to slide that in like that, and then make sure that you tighten that clamp down. Okay, the last thing we're gonna do now is grab the cover. I'm going to slide this down. Okay, so putting this on was actually really confusing. So there's gonna be some tabs on the inside. I think you can see this one, and that has to line up with the hole on the, like, this edge of the top cover, and then you have to line those up and then push it in. Obviously I'm going to tighten down that screw, but there's one here, 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 and another one on the other side. So this piece goes inside and then slides into those tabs, and then the grommets line up. So that was really hard, but it should be fine for you guys now. I suffered for you. So I'm just gonna start putting these in, and then we should be done.